Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going over the step-by-step setup to the easiest drip irrigation system ever. I can't believe how long I procrastinated on getting the drip irrigation system in place. I was just kind of overwhelmed. I thought it was going to be a lot of work, but it was so easy. There are a couple parts that really made things less complicated, so I'm here to tell you about exactly how we set up our system. I believe there are 7 different parts, so I'm gonna go through each part and show you just how easy it is to set up. To prove that it is so easy to do, even though this is already set up, I'm just gonna undo it right here and start all over because I can do it all in about 5 to 10 minutes. I did write an entire blog post summarizing each piece that we're about to go over. So the link is in the description for the blog post if you want to see all the notes for this video after we're finished. And as usual, I linked everything for you in the description as well. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the hose bib. For the sake of ease, we're gonna assume that this is already on your house. If you don't have one of these on your house, you're gonna need to call a plumber. But if you do, things are gonna be really easy. Next, we have what looks complicated, but is really very simple. It's just a splitter, a hose splitter. I really recommend going right for the 4-way to start. The 2-way ones, which I initially bought, but we found out that we needed more than that really quickly. This is what the 2-way one looks like. This is just on the front of our house and it's doing the job back there for now, but on the back where we have our drip irrigation system, the 4-way is kind of the minimum. Each little lever here will open or close different ones as you need to. As you can see, it comes out nice and strong. I'm gonna keep that one closed. That's our open one in case we need to hook up there, but otherwise I have the sod sprinkler and a garden hose and the drip irrigation setup. So it fills up really quickly. Okay, next I have this auto timer. This is going to automatically turn on the water and turn off the water for your drip system. This was incredibly easy to set up. As you can see, you're gonna want to make sure that the lever is open all the time, and then within this timer, it will open or shut itself. So if you want it to be working at all, you want the lever to be open. I can just hit water now or cancel watering, and as you can see, it's going to come out on its own. I just need to release the pressure here because I click cancel watering, and even though it's open, it's not gonna go anywhere because this timer is not letting it. The nice thing about this timer is you can have it set to go off. Ideally, we do around 4 a.m. and that's because the water can get really hot in the drip system when it's sitting out in the sun. So I like for it to go off first thing in the morning when everything is at its coolest. Of course, I don't wanna be waking up at that time to do that, and most other people probably don't either. Okay, this piece is extremely important. Every other drip irrigation video I watched had like 5 or 6 different pieces within this one piece, and you can totally do it that way. There's nothing wrong with it. This piece just made it really simple. All the different pressure regulators and filters and like backflow stuff, it just becomes a lot of jargon really fast. This just hooks right up to the timer, and then it hooks right up to the tubing for the drip system itself. So this is just kind of a bunch of complicated parts in one. I linked it for you below, but again, you can use those other parts if you're partial to kind of tinkering. I'm just not, and this made it a lot easier. Okay, piece number 4 is just the distribution tubing now. So this will go right onto the connector that I mentioned earlier, and you just slide it right on the end. The distribution tubing, I like to think of it as kind of the highway for the water. So it goes from the hose bib all the way out to our garden, which is pretty far from our house. It's 150 feet from our house. Pressure has been great so far, so no worries there. But I just think of it as the highway where the water is just going in one direction, and then it will take little exit ramps, which I'll talk about in a second. But this is just what gets the water to the general area of where it needs to go. Okay, to recap so far, we have the hose bib, we have the hose splitter. This just keeps it open so we can use it for other things. Then we have the timer, which is going to make our life a lot easier. And then we have the faucet connection kit. This just takes 5 or 6 pieces, combines them in one so that we can hook up our distribution tubing, which is going to take the water straight to the garden. Okay, now let's head out to the garden. So we're gonna follow the distribution tubing all the way until where we get to our rows. Here we are using drip tape, which has already intermittent holes throughout the drip tape so that it will water evenly wherever the tape is dispersed. Depending on how far apart your holes are, you may want to do a set of drip tape on either side of the plant. That is totally up to you. In order to get the water from the distribution tubing into the drip tape, we just use this little piece. This is called a tape swivel, and you just punch a hole in the distribution tubing and attach the tape swivel, which then attaches to the tape. And I will show you exactly how we did that right now. So first, we're gonna go ahead and set out the drip tape. This is going in a bed where I planted some cut flowers. Now we're gonna take the nifty little tape swivel, and the other tool that we're gonna use is a hole punch or fitting tool. And this is just gonna allow us to punch the perfect size hole in the distribution tubing. Just like that, easy peasy. Tape swivel goes onto the drip tape and then plugs right into the distribution tubing. And there you go, it is working like a charm. Now, of course, once you get to the end of a row or the end of where your drip tape is, you're gonna wanna add some kind of end piece so that the water isn't all just flowing out at the end and making a huge mess and wasting water. So here are the end pieces that we use compatible with this drip tape. Again, it's all linked, but just make sure you get whatever is compatible with your specific system, whatever you're going with. The end piece for the brown tubing does look different. This is what that one looks like. So, you can mix and match like we did, or you can just choose one. Just make sure you choose the correct way to stop the flow of water at the end of each row so that you can maintain pressure and it's not spilling out. If you want to see how the end piece works, it's really simple. You just kind of fold or crimp the end here, and then you slide the piece right on to cut off the flow of the water. So we do have a few different kinds in our system. Don't let this confuse you. We haven't found one is really better or worse than the other. I guess if I had to pick, I'd pick the drip tape. But we also did use this brown tubing. It doesn't collapse like the drip tape, but honestly, I find that it works just as well. No preferences either way. If we do find that one fails before the other, I'll just pin a comment below to update you guys. But right now, they're pretty much one and the same. If you want to see how the water comes out of each one, here's a close-up. You're going to have to look at the specs for each one if you have a preference, but we're finding that it's pretty much a horse apiece. Even though we're just in the beginning stages of our gardening season this year, our plants are really loving the system so far. As you can see, our herbs, my parsleys are very happy. Everything that we've tried the drip irrigation on is very happy. I'm sure you know by now the benefits of drip irrigation. It uses less water. The water goes right to the base of the plant, which means you're not losing water when you're spraying it through the air, through evaporation. We like to make the water go extra far by adding these wood chips. The wood chips do help suppress weeds, and they also help distribute that water slowly and evenly over time. And during periods of drought, they keep the moisture locked in down by the base of the plant where we want it to be. There are other areas where we don't have wood chips. That just means we have a lot more weeds. I do have a stirrup hoe coming so that hopefully I can tackle these weeds this weekend all in one go. It's just too much to pull by hand. But as you can see, the drip tape is working fine in both scenarios. This is some summer squash and zucchini squash, which I am so excited for this year. Our tomatoes have all been loving the drip system as well. Like I mentioned, you'll see some people will put drip tubing on either side of the plant. We haven't really found that we need to do that so far. I imagine it's probably better because it more evenly distributes the water. Maybe you don't have to run it as long in that case. It's just gonna take a lot more material, whether it's drip tape or the brown tubing, just kind of doubles the amount that you're using. So we're trying to see if we can get away with it on just one side, and so far it's working really well. I don't know if it's because we have the wood chips or not, but no complaints here. So that's kind of the most basic way to set up a drip irrigation system. You could even do without the timer and without the hose splitter if you wanted, but I think those are well worth the investment. They're just a few bucks. Now I'm gonna go over a few more pieces that will just kind of fine tune your drip system. Here we have some fittings. There will be all different kinds of fittings. I believe this one is a T fitting. This just allows the water to continue in the same direction that it was going in the distribution tubing while also teeing off into one direction. So in our case, this would be for the rows. You could use this for individual plants. You don't have to use it necessarily for rows, but it's really useful for watering a large number of plants or seedlings. Side note, another benefit of drip irrigation is that it makes weeding so much easier. Even though I haven't been doing a lot of weeding, as you can see, the weeds come out really easily because the soil is nice and moist. So that part can't be understated. And I'm sure when my tool comes in the mail, I'm sure it's gonna work a lot better in moist soil as opposed to the hard clay soil that we are dealing with when it's dry. Here's another incredibly nifty tool. This is just a barbed valve. So the valve is gonna allow you to turn water on or off wherever you decide to add one in different places in your garden. This is really useful, especially for things like onions, where you might not want them to get too soggy, or like watermelons. We're gonna turn off the water to our watermelons before the end of the season, before it's time to harvest them, so that we make sure they're nice and sweet. Little things like that just allow you to fine tune the system in just a few seconds, as opposed to having to redo your system as the season progresses. I do like to use garden staples to keep things in place. It doesn't totally nail them down by any stretch, but it does help keep things from moving around too much. And the crazy part is that is it. I know how it feels to feel overwhelmed by drip irrigation. I can't believe I put it off as long as I did. I wasted so many hours and probably so much water just trying to water and losing plants in the process because it's not the best way to water them. So we are so happy we got the drip irrigation set up. It saves us a ton of time, and once I got going, it was so much more manageable than I thought it was going to be. Again, I am not a mechanically minded person, so if I can do this and I can understand it, you totally can too. I really recommend just ordering the parts and taking one step at a time, and you'll be amazed at how quickly it all just starts to click. No pun intended. Not only do our plants stay watered better, they stay healthier, but it means that we can get away. I mean, especially with that timer, we can go places and not have to worry about the weather, getting home to water, or hiring somebody else to come out and water our plants while we're gone. So again, it is so worth the time, and we found it to be incredibly affordable as well. If you have any drip irrigation experience, we would love to hear from you in the comments section. Otherwise, I will keep you posted as time progresses with how the system holds up. So far, we've had no issues other than it's pretty addicting and just means we want to add more beds now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.